I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
undocumented foreign men of sexually active age contribute to the safety of British children. 03444991000. And indeed, in another stinging rebuke to Starmer's god-awful government, Farage says that its hands-off approach to unbridled immigration has triggered an alarming rise in the number of rapes and sexual assaults. The shocking statistics bear him out. What should be done? 03444991000. Also tonight, we'll go to the Hampshire town of Waterlooville, where angry locals are the latest long-suffering citizens to have asylum seekers foisted upon them without any consultation whatsoever. Unknown foreigners living in a boarded-up high street that's so run down, its nickname is Zombieland. Once this was a thriving rural town. Now it's a decaying depository for migrants. Welcome to modern Britain. 03444991000. Isn't that a story that is going on the length and breadth of the country? A scandalous story. Plus, tonight, the decline and fall of Davos's 87-year-old globalist-in-chief, Klaus Schwab, defenestrated from his beloved World Forum after 50 years, after a half a century at the helm, amid accusations of misusing funds and inappropriate behaviour. Isn't that a shame? 03444991000. And finally, 1 year on from the horror in Southport, a deep dive into what this country and its politicians have learned, if anything at all. 03444991000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. And without further ado, we've got to talk about this. I cannot believe this. A warm welcome to the show to kick us off to the editor of the Jewish Telegraph, Paul Harris. Paul, thanks for joining us at short notice. I imagine you have some strong feelings about the government's decision today to recognise Palestine.
Well, isn't it a great time to bury bad news about the latest incursion of illegal migrants? This is the perfect time for Starmer to make this announcement. And I think, I would imagine, the 10-minute phone conversation that Starmer apparently had with Netanyahu before he made the announcement, I can imagine the strong words emanating from Jerusalem over this. I would have thought that Starmer would have had short shrift from Netanyahu, very much the same that Netanyahu gave to Macron when he made a similar pronouncement. I shouldn't think that Netanyahu would be in the slightest bit worried about the announcement, which is symbolic anyhow. It actually really means nothing whatsoever.
No, exactly. And apparently when Starmer broached the topic to his new best friend Donald Trump over the last few days, Trump just sort of shrugged and said, well, what the hell, it won't make any difference. But just like Macron's decision to recognise Palestine was meaningless. But you have to ask, Paul, don't you, what exactly does Britain get out of this? I mean, what it gets, as you've just alluded to, it gets the utter contempt of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, who will never take us seriously again. Starmer has managed to alienate, although Trump's fairly sort of laissez-faire about it, he will have been alienated by this decision. America and Trump will not appreciate what Britain has done, because America and Trump still stand foursquare with Israel. So internationally, it's achieved nothing. In fact, it's detrimental to us, I would say. So you have to ask, why has the government decided to do this? It must only purely be because they're terrified of the Muslim vote. I think it's at least 4 cabinet ministers face losing the next election in their constituency if they lose the Muslim vote. And in fact, what small chance Labour may stand of being re-elected at the next election will also depend on the national Muslim vote. It's just that, isn't it? It's cheap, sordid domestic politics.
I mean, I would hesitate to agree with you, but I think you're probably spot on. David Lammy is no friend of Israel. But Israel will never be dictated to by any country in the world. The only leader that Netanyahu would listen to would be Trump. If Trump came up with a similar idea, he would listen. But Trump, as you say, is foursquare behind Israel. we've heard some crackpot ideas like removing all Palestinians from Gaza. That won't happen, forcibly or otherwise. Obviously, if Palestinians want to leave, they're welcome to do so. But Israel, I don't think, would ever force their hand. Trump has come up with this idea, but that was a crackpot idea, turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East.
Yes.
So really, I think that Trump is the only one Netanyahu will listen to. Whether Netanyahu actually respects Trump is another matter. He respects the power he has, and he's going to go along with him because America is Israel's greatest ally.
Absolutely. Can we just bear with us, Paul? We'll just remind ourselves of what two-tier Keir Starmer said today.
I've always said that we will recognise a Palestinian state as a contribution to a proper peace process at the moment of maximum impact for the two-state solution. With that solution now under threat, this is the moment to act. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
Well, I'm sure that Benjamin Netanyahu will take serious note of what the British Prime Minister said there. But this is sort of acting as if Israel is the villain in all of this. They're the ones, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. All they say about Hamas is, oh, we reiterate our call for you to release the hostages. Is not recognising Palestine, given what Hamas have been up to since October the 7th, is it not rewarding rape, torture and murder?
I have to say, Starmer sounds as convincing as Chamberlain returning from Munich in 1939. I mean, he must be one of the weakest world leaders ever. I think, listening to that, I think that Netanyahu must be quaking with fear over that. Look, there has been no move by the Palestinians, by Hamas in Gaza to free the hostages. This would put a very different complexion on things. But Israel is not just going to agree overnight to a ceasefire. Why should Israel? The stated aim is to rid Gaza of Hamas. And until that happens, there's no talk of any solution, two-state or otherwise. And of course, Netanyahu is rejecting a two-state solution. While Hamas is around, there can't be a two-state solution. It's as simple as that. And I think if Hamas were to disappear, the hostages were to be released, there would be a very different complexion on matters, and that this has nothing to do with Starmer's or Macron's statement or any other world leader's statement. It's just plain basic facts and the solution to the problem. The Israelis don't want this conflict. Young men, young soldiers are going into battle. They're losing their lives also. Parents are frightened about what's happening. They're frightened of reaction from Hamas, rockets still coming from Gaza into Israel. Israel doesn't want this. Netanyahu doesn't want it, but there has to be a solution that suits Israel and guarantees Israel's safety. At the moment, that doesn't exist, and there's no sign of the hostages being released.
This two-state solution business bemuses me. David Lammy, that powerhouse of modern politics, has been at the two-state solution conference in New York. Macron, of course, recognising Palestine and calling for a two-state solution. Us, of course, particularly Starmer, calling for a two-state solution. Last time I looked, Israel don't want a two-state solution, and nor does Hamas. So where does all this come from? This is just people in the comfort of their Western democracies demanding a solution that neither party wants.
Exactly. I still fail to understand how all these Western nations feel they can dictate to Israel. Hamas is a different matter. We're talking about a terror organization with whom nobody will negotiate. But Netanyahu is going to take no notice of this whatsoever. What does a two-state solution actually mean? Nobody, as you say, nobody actually knows what this actually refers to.
Exactly right. Well, can you tell me, Paul, personally, I mean, if you like, as a representative of Jewish people in this country, how you're feeling about this? What emotions does this evoke in you?
I think what this evokes is that the Labour Party has scarcely moved on since the days of Corbyn. The Jewish community is very, very fearful of this Labour government. There certainly won't, if there is such a thing as the Jewish vote, and I think there's a Jewish vote which is influenced by what is happening politically. They've lost the Jewish vote in this country altogether. And I think a lot of Jewish people are very, very fearful about the direction in which the country is moving, because this government certainly is no friend of Israel. It suggests that it's a friend of the Jewish community, but if it's a friend of the Jewish community, then it has to be supportive of the only Jewish homeland in the world, the only place that Jews can ever seek refuge or feel safe. But the way things are going, certainly they are no friends of the Jewish community, or certainly not of Israel.
Yeah, I just get the feeling that Starmer, just great swathes of our Labour government or the Labour Party, they just don't like Israel, do they?
As simple as that. They seem to be following many of the policies of Corbyn, albeit not the degree of anti-Semitism there was in the party, but some Jewish people would suggest this is anti-Semitic in not really recognising the state of Israel, but not suggesting that the state of Israel has no right to exist. But they're certainly not supportive of Israel, and they should be. They seem to be more supportive of an organisation like Hamas. I mean, Hamas is bringing about this catastrophe in Gaza, not Israel. Yeah. And again, you know, the suggestions that Israel is preventing food and other aid getting to Palestinians. We've discussed this before on this show. We know what's happening to some of that aid and some of the food supplies. We know exactly where it's ending up and why Israel decided to try and control the situation. It's very, very simple.
Just a personal story. I was watching the BBC News on TV, BBC One, at around about lunchtime. And they began this report with the IPCC's criteria for a country to be in famine. And they sort of said, oh, it requires, you know, at least 2 kids in the family haven't eaten for 3 days, people starving for a week's on end, blah, blah, blah. All these, they listed about sort of 4 direct criteria that you need before a country officially can be declared to be in famine. And then they went to the report. And then about 3 minutes into the report, they quietly mentioned, it seemed rather grudgingly, that actually Gaza does not meet the requirements to be called, to be classified as in famine. So Gaza is not, just like it's not suffering genocide, nor is it suffering from a famine, and that's official.
Look, I can't speak officially about this, but there are suggestions that there is food available. I mean, I wonder, and I think others are wondering, where some of this footage is actually coming from, in view of the fact that Israel has barred TV cameras from the area. So I'm not quite sure where some of these reports or where some of the food, that some of these images are actually emanating from. Look, I think there are people suffering in Gaza, but I don't think everybody is suffering, and certainly, least of all, the Hamas terrorists and the Hamas leadership. So there is food getting there from somewhere. And you're right about this BBC report. It certainly was not presented in a very balanced manner whatsoever.
Exactly right. I'm just addressing the audience now. If folks, you want to find out, at least have a good idea of what's going on in Gaza, it goes without saying, don't for God's sake watch the BBC, which is completely prejudiced and biased and arguably anti-Semitic. Paul, very much appreciate you taking time out to speak to us. Thank you so much. That's Paul Harris there, editor of the Jewish Telegraph. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm pretty disgusted, to be honest with you. It's pointless, as I said to Paul Harris. Absolutely. It doesn't do anything for us whatsoever. Doesn't remotely affect the situation in Gaza. The only reason Labour have done this is, in my view, and you tell me what you think, to cravenly pursue the Muslim vote. Why on earth did they have an emergency cabinet meeting to decide to recognise Palestine. When we have a crisis here at home, our asylum seeker hotel crisis, our migrant crisis, spinning out of control. When we first heard that Starmer had called his cabinet back off their various vacations and holidays for this emergency meeting, we assumed it would be about the rising number of protests around the country to do with the asylum seeker hotel situation, but no. It wasn't about the crisis in this country. It was about the crisis in a country thousands of miles away. And they decided to do something that won't make a blind bit of difference to anyone. Your thoughts? 03444991000. When we come back, we'll be joined by Amy Gallagher. We'll go through some of the other big stories of the day, particularly the migrant crisis. So look forward to that. Stay tuned.
10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10K cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10K for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10K for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, we're joined now from the New Culture Forum. Very pleased to welcome to the show commentator Amy Gallagher. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Kevin.
Right, let's get straight down to business. I want to talk about this asylum seeker hotel situation, which is getting worse by the moment. Last night, by the way, this show, we obtained footage from inside one of these asylum seeker hotels. About 600 people at this place called the Copthorne Hotel down in the Sussex countryside. Used to be a 4-star hotel. They've got 4-poster beds. They get 4 meals a day. They get constant deliveries. They're allowed to make phone calls, free phone calls around the world on their landlines that we pay for, and so on and so forth. But more and more and more of these hotels are coming into play. We have a government that we thought would be, when we heard they're having an emergency meeting this week, these are the pictures, by the way, from the hotel. When it was announced that Starmer called an emergency cabinet minister meeting, we assumed it would be about, you know, the rising number of protests over asylum seeker hotels, the growing national unrest over all of this, and we thought that's why they'd been called back from their holiday. But no, they'd been called back to decide to recognise the state of Palestine. Why do you think, Amy, it is that this government doesn't seem to understand just how worried people are about the migrant crisis? More and more hotels being commandeered for migrants. As I say, this place is the Copthorne Hotel. Nice place. It's got a koi carp pond, adjacent golf course, manicured gardens. It's got about 650 migrants in there. Why do you think that Keir Starmer doesn't seem to think that's worth calling an emergency cabinet meeting about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be a national emergency at this point. You know, we are facing, many people are saying, you know, a summer of riots and protests. All it takes is for one spark to set things off. You know, everybody's feeling it. Everybody's very nervous. I don't know if it's that they aren't aware of the problem. I mean, I suspect, you know, it doesn't affect them. You know, Keir Starmer lives in North London. I'm sure he mixes with people. And goes to kind of very lefty liberal dinner parties where it doesn't affect the people, you know, the people that these politicians and Keir Starmer and other politicians mix with. So they think that people are exaggerating, I guess, in terms of the effect it's having on them and their communities. But I also just think Labour know that they've got to court the Muslim vote. They've got to, you know, they are now the party of kind of minorities. So there's that, and I think they are fundamentally globalists. I mean, like what you said, that they've called an emergency meeting to discuss a foreign conflict. Yeah. You know, that they are putting foreign interests above the interests of the British people, because that's how they think. They don't think in terms of kind of us as a nation, and that is their primary job to think about the people of Britain and to think about the history of Britain and the culture of Britain and thinking about our borders. They think globally. They think in those broader terms, and that's why you know, they keep coming out. You know, they keep coming into conflict with the people of Britain. You know, the people that they should be serving. And
that is causing a kind of pressure cooker, which I think will give fairly soon. I mean, we saw last weekend lots and lots of protests all over the country about, you know, just communities protesting about their local asylum seeker hotel. This place, right, is in a very pretty village, not far from Gatwick Airport. A guy rang into my show last night. You know, he's living in the countryside. This is rural, pretty Sussex. This is a 16th century hotel. Used to be the focal point of the village. He said, when I moved here to start my family and everything, he said, I didn't really ever think that this would be the kind of place where I'd have to warn my daughters not to go out, to be very careful when they walk the streets. This is what the migrant crisis, or the asylum seeker hotel crisis, is really all about, I think, for British people. That this government has let in, continues to let in, thousands and thousands and thousands of young men of sexually active age about whom we know nothing. We are learning that hundreds of them have been charged with various serious crimes, and a significant proportion of those crimes are sex crimes. Now, when local communities find that out, that a migrant or an asylum seeker in their midst is either guilty of rape or sexual assault, or charged with rape or sexual assault, that is a powder keg. That is when the communities get very, very angry. This is at the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this issue has been confined largely to cities, particularly London, and a lot of people who have fled the cities because of mass immigration thought that they would be safe, that they could go to small rural towns and it wouldn't affect them. But it's now affecting them, and everybody's feeling, as you say, this pressure cooker of, well, where do I go then? How can I escape this issue? How can I live peacefully? Where can I go to live in a place where my daughters and my sons can go to school safely? I don't have to worry about them, being assaulted or having to face this issue. And increasingly, people are feeling like, well, hang on, it's narrowing in terms of the places where we can go, and it's a massive issue for everyone now, and that's why reform are topping the polls, and immigration is now one of the leading issues on people's minds politically, because everybody's feeling it. And the government still aren't speaking to their issue. I mean, we recently had this interaction between Keir Starmer and President Trump, and President Trump speaks to the issue.
Yeah, didn't he just?
Yeah, whereas Keir Starmer doesn't. He gives one speech to kind of calm people down, and then later on retracts it, says, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that actually." So everybody's just feeling, terrified that the direction things are going in, and we have this government that's just doing nothing about it.
And here's what worries me, right? So Labour seem to be sort of putting before us, a worried nation, this. Keir Starmer, we'll get these asylum seekers out of these hotels and into housing. This will be social housing, this will be private housing, private rentals. Now, does he think that that's the solution we are looking for? What that is, Amy, is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I mean, just moving them out of hotels into another form of accommodation, that doesn't solve the crisis, does it? It's ridiculous.
No, it's like they're playing whack-a-mole. They can whack them in one area, but they're going to pop up somewhere else. And I think, moving them from hotels into flats so they can say, look, we've reduced the amount of migrants in hotels. Yeah, but you put them all into flats, and you're putting them into flats in places like Hampshire that we've seen today that are small towns and are going to be heavily affected by it. So that it doesn't really improve or change the situation, and there's still likely going to be protests. I think families don't, I do think it annoys people when they see migrants in very lavish hotels. But quite frankly, I think most people are more worried about the effect that these men loitering around is going to have on their children and their families, and whether they're in flats or hotels, it's still a problem. So the fact that's the solution we're being offered, I mean, it's just it's mad.
And it's very two-tier, of course, because British citizens say, well, hang on a second, I have to pay for my accommodation, I have to pay for my food and food for my family, I have to pay taxes. Now, these migrants in these hotels, we found this out with the Copthorne, where we got all this astonishing footage. They get everything for free food, 4 meals a day they get special afternoon snacks delivered to them, to their rooms every afternoon. That's as well as breakfast, lunch and dinner. There is a non-stop convoy of deliveries of food, and also big vans, of course, big trucks, toiletries, necessities. Social workers are there all the time. The police are there all the time. Ambulances are there all the time. NHS comes twice a day. The money we are spending giving these people a free life of luxury at our expense is extraordinary, and I do believe it will. It's a recipe for disaster. Just before we go to break, just so we can remind ourselves, 212 more migrants crossed the Channel illegally yesterday. That takes the tally since last Wednesday to 855. These people, these new arrivals in the past week alone, since last Wednesday, will cost you, me, Amy, every British taxpayer, 34 million quid over the next year. That's just since last Wednesday. It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's no wonder the British people have reached the end of their tether with this. This nonsense, this madness has got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, we've got just under 300,000 people in this country who are homeless. We have people who were born here who have been on waiting lists for years for social housing. Most young people in their 20s, even in their 30s, can't afford to buy a house. We have a massive, housing crisis just for ordinary, hardworking people. And yet we are seeing the kind of footage that you just showed of these migrants not just being given accommodation, but being given very, very high quality accommodation with food, breakfast, lunch and dinner. I mean, this is a life that a lot of ordinary people would think, oh, I'd like that.
Yeah, I would.
I would. And I just don't know how much the British, people can take this. It feels like, do they want to push people into some kind of civil unrest? Because how much longer can people see these kind of images and continue to live the lives that they're leading with the hardships that they have?
Yeah, and lest we forget, as soon as these usually very nice hotels are taken over and turned into asylum seeker accommodation centres, up go the steel barriers, the windows are blackened out, and they put security blockades all around with security guards. So the government doesn't want us to know just how insanely generous we're being to these people. And as you say, while we can't do enough for these undocumented foreigners, mostly young men that we don't know anything about, we have military veterans and way too many decent British citizens homeless on the street. It is crazy. And nothing good can come from it, I'll tell you that. Listen, Amy, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, let's talk about what happened with Nigel Farage and the Science and Technology Secretary Peter Kyle today. Quite a story. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Amy Gallagher, commentator, social and political commentator from the New Culture Forum. Amy, let's talk about what happened today. An extraordinary outburst by the Science and Technology Secretary Peter Kyle on Sky News, talking to Will Frost, a friend of mine actually. Well, let's remind ourselves what he said, and Nigel Farage, the victim of his outburst, is demanding an apology. So we'll just play both of those and decide what we think afterwards. So take it away, Mr. Kyle.
I see that Nigel Farage is already saying that he's going to overturn these laws. So You know, we have people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence. Nigel Farage is on their side. Make no mistake about it, if people like Jimmy Savile were alive today, he'd be perpetrating his crimes online. And Nigel Farage is saying that he's on their side.
I'm sorry.
Not the side of children who are...
I'm going to ask you to clarify. Do you honestly think to say Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side?
When it comes to online activity, we have seen unfettered access of adults to children via social media. When we put in the age verification, it stops strange adults getting in touch with children. So make no...
Well, Amy, Will Frost there doing a very good job. He put him on the spot 3 times. He said, are you sure you want to stick with this, that Nigel Farage is on the side of Jimmy Savile? And he did. Here's Nigel's response.
Well, this is so absolutely disgusting that it's almost beyond belief. Just how low can a Labour government sink in its desperation? Yes, of course, they're in trouble. They're well behind us in the opinion polls, but frankly to say that I would do anything that would in any way aid and abet people like Jimmy Savile is frankly just, it's so below the belt, it's almost not true. But all of this is, of course, deflection. Deflection because we were told from the very start, and by the way, it's not the Labour government that have passed this legislation, it was the previous Conservative government that have passed this legislation, which is why you've barely heard a squeak out of them. But if it's designed to protect children, then I sense it may very, very well have been drawn up by people who don't know what they're doing.
I think he's got a point there. The thing is, Labour are maintaining you know, that the only purpose of the Online Safety Act is to protect children, you know, from pornography and the dangerous horrors that lurk on the internet. It's just to protect children, so if you're against it, you obviously don't want to protect children. Let me tell you, for example, Amy, what the Online Safety Act was used for this very weekend. It was used to block people from watching footage of the asylum seeker protest unfolding in Leeds. You could not get into it, and there was a message saying, due to local laws, we cannot show you this video. The local law being the, when they mean local, that's X, talking about local as in British laws, and they meant the Online Safety Law. So actually, the Online Safety Act may well, to some extent, protect children, but mainly it's a device by which our socialist government can suppress and restrict the kind of free speech it doesn't like and finds uncomfortable, like us watching what was happening outside the asylum seeker hotel in Leeds. That's what this is about, and that's why Farage objects to it, that's why I object to it, that's why a lot of decent people object to it, because it's an attack on freedom of speech. And to say that Nigel Farage is backing Jimmy Savile by objecting to the Online Safety Act, Nigel's right, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you just cast your mind back to when Boris Johnson accused Keir Starmer of protecting Jimmy Savile when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, you know, the Labour Party went mad. They were saying, how dare you, you know, bring even kind of refer to Jimmy Savile in relation to Keir Starmer, and yet we have a Labour MP now very quick to link Jimmy Savile in relation to the Online Safety Act. I mean, who ever thought that? Nobody links those two subjects. Yeah, I mean, yes, pornography and violence, but I mean, Jimmy Savile didn't carry out his abuses online, and this Labour MP saying if he was alive today he would be. Well, not necessarily. It's a very odd thing to do. And as you say, people across the political spectrum have issues with the Online Safety Act. Even Owen Jones, formerly of The Guardian, you know, very left-wing activist, has come out and said he's against this act. So the idea that it's just, you know, wanting to protect, you know, wanting to get in bed with people like Jimmy Savile, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, as you said, yes, most people want to protect children from extreme pornography, violence, things that they shouldn't be looking at. But the issue is the interpretation of kind of porn and violence on places like Twitter, because you have, protests which are being interpreted as being violent, then being censored, and we can't see what's happening. I mean, there was a post about single-sex spaces for women and wanting to protect single-sex spaces that was censored. I mean, possibly because it's got the word sex in it, I don't know. And there was a speech by the Tory MP, Katie Lamb, about grooming gangs, a speech that she gave in Parliament, which was censored, presumably because it was relating to incidences of sexual violence, and that would go against things that children can view. But it does mean that adults can't now see content that would be appropriate actually in a democratic society to view and to know what's going on and to be able to comment on. So that's why most people have an issue with it. The idea that people want to protect predators, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I wonder if this Labour MP Peter Kyle really believes that. I mean, if he does, it just shows you how deluded he is. But that's the concern that most people have is as you say, censorship. I think most people agree that children viewing certain material is wrong, and there should be restrictions around that. But it is the censorship of and as you've pointed out, that is probably going to lean in one direction. It's going to be two-tier censorship. That's another worry that people have. And a lot of people aren't particularly. There are ways around this with VPNs and so on, but a lot of people aren't tech savvy, which means or they can't afford to get a VPN, which means there's going to be certain people that won't be able to view what's going on, maybe even in their area. If there's a violent protest going on in their area, they won't be able to see footage of what's going on. There's all sorts of problems that could come out of this, and good for Nigel Farage for coming out and speaking out about it. But it's not just the Reform Party that have an issue with this. It's a lot of people actually.
Amy, it's anybody who believes in free speech, like me,
exactly.
And I'm sure you as well. That's what the problem with the Online Safety Act is. Maybe it goes some way towards protecting children, but there's too much else in it for it to stand just as a protector of children, because there's a lot more to it. And in a free democracy, a Western democracy, people should have the right to look at footage of peaceful protests outside asylum seeker hotels, and yet the Online Safety Act prevented them from doing that. That is sinister. That is censorship. That is the killing of freedom of speech, and that's why Nigel Farage objects to it, and that's why millions of us agree with him. So to hell with you, Mr. Kyle. I wonder if he'll apologise. He probably won't, but if nothing else, in the cut of thrust of politics, you expect the odd barbed remark, but this one went way over the top and should not be countenanced.
As I understand it, he's doubling down, this MP. He said that he's not taking it back, and he stands by what he says.
Oh, he probably thinks he's got lots of brownie points with all his left-wing friends. It's pathetic, isn't it? Let's go to break, and when we come back, I want to talk about another issue that Nigel Farage has risen, saying that Britain's mad migration policies have triggered an alarming rise in the number of rapes and sexual assaults. This, of course, alludes to a conversation that Amy and I were having earlier, but we're going to nail it down with some of the shocking statistics, so stick around.
10k cash for Coldplay.
Play 10k cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10k for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10k for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. After the 8 o'clock news, I'm going down to the town of Waterlooville in Hampshire, where the poor people there are the latest community to have foisted upon them a bunch of asylum seekers with no consultation whatsoever. They've just suddenly been imposed on them. And not surprisingly, the people of Waterlooville are not happy. We'll talk to a lady who lives there after the 8 o'clock news. In the meantime, let's go back to Amy Gallagher, commentator at the New Culture Forum. Amy, we sort of alluded to this earlier, but Nigel Farage has crystallised it, and he has warned us, has announced that Britain's mad migration policies have triggered an alarming rise in the number of rapes and sexual assaults. Foreign nationals make up 9.3% of the population of this country. 23% of sex crimes between 2021 and 2023 were committed by foreigners. So that's very disproportionate. Meanwhile, men from abroad are 71% more likely to launch sexual assaults than British men. New statistics have also revealed, this is in London, that 4 in 10 people charged with sex attacks in London since 2018 were foreigners. Now, this is despite the fact that foreign nationals make up less than a quarter of the capital city's population. So an extremely disproportionate number of foreigners, foreign men, are responsible for this rising number of rape and sexual assault crimes, and it does come down, as Nigel Farage says, to our migration policies, that we just let anyone in who turns up.
Yeah, I mean, we know as well in London that between 2018 and now, sexual offences have doubled. I mean, that's huge, you know. And I mean, I know that there's loads of anecdotal evidence I've heard from lots of people speaking out about this, and it's so good to see a leader of a political party naming the problem, and not just talking about toxic masculinity or saying there's just an overall problem with sexual offences or men in general. Actually saying, no, this is a direct link to immigration, and we have the data now. For a long time we didn't have the data. A long time the data was suppressed, or we weren't even collecting it. But we do know now that it is definitely foreign nationals are far more likely to commit sexual offences than British people. And if you want to break that down, particularly people from places like Afghanistan, which they come from a very different culture to our own, and Islamic culture views women very, very differently. And it's good that more and more people are speaking up about this. I mean, it's been a bit of a battle. I know your colleague Alex Phillips was to me, she was one of the first people to talk about this, and it was so shocking to hear someone say it, because nobody was saying it. And then more and more women and more people in general have been able to say, yes, this, people are noticing this, and then we've got the data as well. So it is definitely moving in a positive direction that Nigel Farage is pointing out this problem. But it's devastating what's happened to London, and it's not just London, it's up in it's across the country. But Britain is no longer a safe place for women and girls.
That's the point, Amy, that these migration policies, successive governments going back 15 years have instigated migration policies that has turned this country into an unsafe place for women. I'll just give you a quick illustrative story. A couple of weeks ago, a story emerged of a small boat migrant from Afghanistan, 29-year-old guy, came across the channel illegally. This was a couple of years ago. Was immediately billeted in Scotland, in Falkirk. So they shipped him up to Falkirk, stuck him in some hotel there. Hours later, he took a local girl, or sort of rough-housed a local girl behind the back of the local pub, and violently raped her. Now, his defence in court was this, and when he was convicted, he got 12 years, by the way. When he got the sentence, he had to be suppressed. He was furious. His defence was, well, you know, no one told me about the cultural differences between where I come from, Afghanistan, and Britain. What he meant was, you know, back in Afghanistan, they take a pretty relaxed attitude to raping women. Back here, we take much more of a dim view of it. But that was his defence, that he didn't understand the cultural differences. A guy from Qatar, a camel herder, for God's sake, was brought over here for medical treatment. Qatar has very good health policies, by the way. Brought over for a heart treatment. They put him in a hotel in Chelsea, and he immediately raped one of the British women patients. And his excuse was, well, you know, where I come from, I have very little to do with them. I don't really understand women. Of course, he comes from a country where, you know, you don't even get to see a woman's big toe, let alone anything else. So it's this cultural difference between the countries that these young sexually active men are coming from and Britain. That is, it's not a healthy cocktail. It's a recipe for trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when they say, you know, oh, it's cultural differences, you do wonder, have they just learnt the lingo? Have they just learnt something that you think, you know, maybe some kind of lefty judge might kind of, you know, take on board? Or do they actually mean it? Do they actually mean, you know, I came here and nobody told me, genuinely?
I think it was genuine. I think he was confused.
Yeah, genuinely, because the culture is so different. And then you have to look to our government and think, well, why wasn't he told? Why was he allowed to come here with these attitudes and have these attitudes and behaviours and crimes unchallenged? Why was that allowed to happen? You know, it's unbelievable. I mean, ordinarily, it used to be the case that if you know, British people travel to the sorts of countries these men come from, they're given all sorts of travel advice about not walking alone, having a chaperone, being careful. And yet these men are coming over here, they're not being given advice, and our women and girls aren't being, you know, told that this is happening. Migrants are being, you know, busted into certain communities and they're not being told about it, and we're just expected to put up with it. I mean, that's, you know,
and then you get the very pious Mr. Peter Kyle, you know, the science and technology secretary, you know, calling Nigel Farage Jimmy Savile's best friend and all that kind of stuff, as if he's the knight in shining armour from a government that really worries about children's and women's safety, and yet they're in charge of a policy that lets any old guy in, no questions asked. In what way does that policy make the streets safe for both women and children? It doesn't, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's the same for Jess Phillips. I mean, she'll go on and on about feminism and women's rights. But even recently, still now, even though we've got the data, when she's pressed on it and people will say, look, we know that it's foreign nationals that are committing these crimes more than British men, she will not accept it. She will just say it's just men. She doesn't want to...
just men. Yeah, by the way, she's got a constituency full of Muslims. She needs the Muslim vote too. Same old story every time. Craven politicians. To hell with them, I say. Amy, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. We could do it again soon. That's Amy Gallagher from the New Culture Forum. When we come back, we're going to Waterlooville. Stick around for that.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The The people smash the smash.
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've got loads and loads of calls. People very, very energised about the Palestine issue. In fact, I would say, when I say energised, I mean furious. What does this guy think he's doing? What's that for? Why has he recognised Palestine? It's purely for the Muslim vote. Won't do anything, won't change the situation, won't feed a single kid. It will do nothing. So these 2-bit cabinet geeks, they meet today for what's supposed to be an emergency meeting about Gaza. It's an emergency meeting about the Muslim vote. They're not, in what way does this help starving children? Britain may be recognising or set to recognise Palestine in September, unless Israel bends over backwards to do everything Keir Starmer has demanded. I'm sure they're really taking notice because they really care about Keir Starmer. Unbelievable. I mean, what do they think they're doing? I mean, why are they having a crisis meeting about this? A country thousands of miles away. Why don't they have a crisis meeting about what's going on in this country? The asylum seeker hotels, the growing unrest, the sense that this country is going to the dogs. No, but they're talking about Gaza and Palestine. We're going to recognise Palestine. I mean, who cares? Well, we know why you're doing it. So honestly, I've never been more disgusted, I think, in politicians, and that's saying something. Talk about lowlifes. You know, nothing to do with helping Gaza, nothing to do with trying to perhaps bring matters towards some kind of ceasefire, just sort of semi-virtue signaling, genocide, all that stuff. But mainly just to shore up the Muslim vote that I think it's about 4 cabinet ministers. If they don't have the Muslim vote in their constituencies, they will lose their seat in the next election. We're talking about West Streeting. We're talking about Jonathan Reynolds, the fake solicitor. We're talking about Angela Rayner, and I think quite a few more. So they'll all lose their seats, and Labour will lose number 10 Downing Street unless they keep the Muslim vote. That's what recognising Palestine is all about. Nothing to do with caring about what's going on. It's about caring about themselves. Aren't they wonderful people, aren't they? Emergency cabinet meeting, bringing them back from holiday for that. Good God. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000, because we'll be taking your calls around about 8:30 and furthermore later in the show as well. So lots and lots of calls about Palestine. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. In about 20 minutes or so, we'll get Reform UK's Anne Widdecombe's view on this. That'll be interesting. But first, as I say, the Battle of Waterlooville may be looming after the residents of the Hampshire town of Waterlooville suddenly had foisted upon them a bunch of asylum seekers. Now, in this town, it's a bit run down. I think you can see from the pictures, the high street is all boarded up. It's kind of derelict. A picture we see all over the country. The residents there nickname their high street Zombieland. Anyway, there's some new flats, apartments have been built sort of overlooking this high street. And guess who's going to get them? They were going to sell for £250,000. Now it looks as if, I guess, the government has bought them. And they're going to put asylum seekers in there. So I wonder what the locals think about this. They weren't consulted, of course. They have no say in this whatsoever. One more blow to a town already struggling, I would suggest. Well, let's speak to one of the residents of this Hampshire town, Waterlooville. Welcome to the show, Eve Woodley. Hello, Eve.
Hello, good evening, Kevin.
Well, your thoughts about this. Now, as I understand it, you're only earmarked for about 35 asylum seekers, but you've got I've seen the pictures of your high street. It's not healthy, is it? It's boarded up, close to derelict, and now you're going to get on top of the high street, overlooking it. You're going to get a load of asylum seekers. What are you feeling about your town? What are you feeling about the fact that nobody asked you about this?
Well, there is a regeneration going on, as I'm sure there is in many towns across the country, and it is beginning to pay dividends. We are beginning to make progress.
Okay.
To have unknown people is all I can describe them as. Who knows what they've done, where they've come from. It's a hangout for lots of young girls, young teenagers, young boys hang around there in the evenings because they have nowhere else to go, clearly. And I just feel that we're putting them at danger by not knowing who these people are or what they're capable of. My opinion is, if they've come to this country to do good, why have they torn their papers up so we don't know who they are?
It's a very good opinion. And in terms of these flats that they're going to be put into, these apartments, I gather that they were slated to go for about £250,000 each. I'm assuming the government has bought them in order to put asylum seekers in. Now, in terms of the regeneration of your town, you know, a bunch of asylum seekers isn't going to do much for that project, is it?
Not at all. Absolutely not at all. These were built to be prestige homes, which would hopefully also bring more businesses to the town because they could have shop premises underneath, so that would regenerate the town even more. I have no issue with anybody coming to our country if they come legal routes with legal papers, they can support themselves and they want to pay back and give in to our society. Yeah. I work for a volunteer organisation. And just as one example, 2 weeks ago, we had a homeless lad walk in, homeless for mental health issues. All he had to his name was the clothes he stood up in, a little rucksack and a blanket. He came in to get some food and a drink of water because it was a hot day and he didn't even have a drink. And we tried and tried to find somewhere for him to go. But the best we could do was buy him a tent and a sleeping bag. So I actually said to my fellow volunteers, maybe we should drive him over to France and stick him on a boat and tear up his papers. Then he could come and live in a hotel and get 3 meals a day.
Well, we did a story last night on this show because, you know, these asylum seeker hotels, they're shrouded in secrecy. You know, they put up steel barriers, they black the windows out, there's security guards all around. We managed to get a lot of footage from inside one hotel, a place called the Copthorne. It's in Sussex, a 16th century hotel, 4-star it was. They've still got the koi carp ponds, the manicured gardens and the adjacent golf course, but is now home to about 620 asylum seekers living in the most extraordinary luxury. These are pictures, I don't know if you can see them, but 4 poster beds, they get 4 meals a day, everything free, they get music sessions, they get gifts, they get taxis, free taxis for all their kids to go to the local schools every day, ambulances, police come in every day, social workers. There's nothing, we can't do enough for these people, and that's another thing I'm thinking about. In a town like yours, it's good that you're trying to regenerate, but you know, there's a lot of British people around the country, you know, who have to do that old-fashioned thing, pay their own way. Living in sort of pretty reduced circumstances, and yet we're paying for all these foreigners who broke into our country illegally to stay in the lap of luxury. There's something wrong about all this, isn't there?
I totally agree. If I went out tomorrow and broke the law, so I was illegal, would they put me in a hotel and feed me for 3 meals a day? I don't think they would.
No, they put you in prison.
Absolutely right. Absolutely, that's what they would do. And these are illegal people that have entered our country in an illegal route, and they have no papers because they've obviously got something to hide that they don't want us to see.
And what do the people, your fellow Waterlooville residents feel about, which I think is, you know, one of the worst elements of this scandal, is the fact that nobody consults you. Nobody said, look, we're planning to do this. What are your thoughts? They just do it. They just do it. You're just going to have these people foisted, imposed upon you.
Absolutely. Apparently, they did send an email to someone at Havant Borough Council for a consultation, but apparently it went to the wrong person. Well, why didn't the wrong person pass it on to the right person? Did it ever exist? I don't know. And everybody's the same. They just don't feel the same about not just our town, but towns across the whole country. I mean, what is it going to take? A civil war to stop it? I don't know.
It seems to be building up towards something like that. You're not all that far from Portsmouth, eh?
No, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, well, you'll probably know about this. I mean, this is at the centre of why I think more and more people like yourself and me, people around the country, are getting very agitated by this escalating asylum seeker hotel crisis, because that's what it is. In Portsmouth, Southsea, there's a hotel called the Royal Beach Hotel. That's an asylum seeker hotel.
My daughter had her wedding there.
Well, as I understand it, she wouldn't like to have it there now.
No.
They've turned it into an asylum seeker hotel. And recently, one of the residents there was convicted of rape of a local woman. Now, when that guy was arrested and charged, or arrested and questioned, the council threw a veil of secrecy over it, telling council officials, oh, you can talk about the rape, but don't for God's sake say that an asylum seeker is in the frame for it. Now, that guy's been convicted now. I think he got 12 years. But you can understand why the people of Portsmouth are very upset about this, and that I would imagine this is why, Eve, people of Waterlooville will be perturbed about what's about to happen to them.
Exactly right, because we do not know the history of these people, and they have their ways. They don't view women the same way as we do, and that's fine if that's their culture. But if they want to come to our country, then they have to live by our rules. We shouldn't have to change our rules for them. They have to live by our rules, and if they don't want to, I've been to many, many countries across the world, and I have to abide by their rules. I have to cover my head if I go in a church or a holy place, and I do it because it's their rules in their country. But they just don't want to abide and be the same as us and abide by our customs and our rules.
I think half the problem is most of them don't speak English when they arrive.
I know. They should be here if they can't. Well, they shouldn't be here, full stop. But, you know, if you go to Australia, you have to have so much money in the bank. You have to have a skill that they want. You have to have all your papers in order. You have to be able to speak the language. But we don't really care. We're just
to come to this country, you have to be able to climb onto a small boat or a dinghy. That's about it.
As for all the money we've given the French to stop it, well, that's just a joke. How many hospitals could we have done with that? How many special education needs schools, which we're crying out for, could that money have helped?
I'll tell you, the asylum seeker crisis is insane, Eve. Tell me a little about, before you go, Waterlooville. You say you're regenerating now. I don't think the migrant scheme will help you much, but generally speaking, what has gone wrong? Why do the locals, for example, I don't know if they still do, but we were told they nicknamed the high street Zombie Land because all the shops are boarded up. Why the decline?
I think because a lot of shops, especially after COVID, couldn't afford to keep going. And I don't know any truth behind whether the council didn't reduce their rents or give them free rents in council or business rates, etc., etc. I don't know what there is in truth behind that. But that's the long and the short of it. They just could not afford to stay there because they just were not getting enough business.
And are you trying to get more shops back into the area?
Yes, they're doing a lot of pop-up shops to try and get them started. And I have been told, but I don't know how true it is, that they are giving them reduced business rates and rents to try and regenerate and get more people in. We're losing banks hand over fist, as I know most high streets are these days. And all we seem to get is barbershops.
Have you got plenty of those? Everybody's got plenty of those.
Plenty of barbershops.
Yeah, you can get anything at those barbershops except for a haircut. A friend of mine did go into one and asked a haircut, and this bemused guy picked up a pair of scissors and gave him the worst haircut of his life. So this is my general bit of advice to everyone: is don't get a haircut in the Turkish barbershops. Listen, Eve, really good to talk to you, and perhaps we'll keep in touch. When are you expecting your migrant friends to descend upon you?
Don't know. There's a big demonstration planned for tomorrow, actually in the high street.
Oh, is there? Yeah. Are you going?
Yeah. I hope it's going to be peaceful and we don't have a load of troublemakers. But sometimes that happens, doesn't it? But does a demonstration help? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I know it's worked in the past, hasn't it? But we shall see. Time will tell.
Well, you don't want to just meekly accept this. And
absolutely not.
To be fair, if you think about it, over the last weekend there were a lot of protests, pretty febrile protests as well, but they were by and large peaceful, and that's what we want to see. I think there should be mass protests in this country.
They have shut down one hotel. Is it Epping where they shut it?
Yeah, the Bell Hotel.
All they've done is moved them to one in London, haven't they? So.
Well, they're still in the Bell Hotel as well. And by the way, the one in London, right, is called the Britannia International. It's a 4-star in Canary Wharf. It's got swimming pool, jacuzzi, bars, restaurants. If the government is £425 a night before it became a migrant hotel, if the government can say, we're getting everybody out of the asylum seeker hotels, we're putting them into social housing and places like Waterlooville, these private places. If they've got this policy to empty out the asylum seeker hotels, what are they doing commandeering another one right in the middle of London?
Yeah, exactly right. And for Keir Starmer to say the other day, there's loads of empty social housing across the country. I'd like to know where.
Yeah, there isn't any, actually. Listen, Eve...
We've got council waiting lists as long as you're armed.
Exactly right. Eve, really good to talk to you, and we'll keep in touch, yes? That's Eve Woodley, resident of Waterlooville, the latest town in this country to suddenly have a bunch of asylum seekers foisted upon them, imposed upon them, no consultation. Here's some foreigners. Hope you like them. That's it. I mean, it's going on all over the country, this. What are your thoughts? 03444991000. We've got to reduce this. But you can see from Waterlooville's story, from the Britannia International Hotel in Canary Wharf, it's not reducing, it's getting worse. It's expanding, this problem. It's getting bigger and bigger. Your thoughts? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk to Reform UK's redoubtable spokeswoman, Anne Widdecombe, and we'll get her take on the government recognising Palestine. Should be interesting. Stay tuned.
Clearly, Kyle, I don't know what's taken possession of him, but to use the hideous pedo Jimmy Savile as a political tool is just, it is the lowest of the lows. It shows how desperate the Labour Party are, how much panic they are in. They can't beat us to a normal argument of policy, so they're now resorting to this. It'll backfire against them, but it's just not where we should be going in the way of debating things.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, lots of you getting in touch about Starmer's decision in September, actually, to recognise Palestine as a state unless Israel agrees to his conditions. I'm sure they'll be losing a lot of sleep about that. We'll go into that in just a second. But loads of people getting in touch, loads of messages, loads of phone calls. We'll be talking on the phone in about 15 minutes or so, so get ready to chat. But before we get to you, let's talk to Reform UK spokesperson Anne Widdicombe. Welcome, Anne.
Hello, good evening.
Well, your thoughts. We've been discussing Starmer's or the Cabinet's decision to recognise Palestine in September unless Israel meets Keir's demands. I'm sure they'll spend a lot of time thinking about that. They won't bother with that one bit. But I mean, what is the problem with this, Anne, as far as I can work out, is it won't make any difference to the situation in Gaza. It won't feed a single child. It won't bring about the ceasefire. So they had an emergency cabinet meeting today about this. So why is it that they want to recognise Palestine? It can only be one thing, in my view. They're worried about the Muslim vote back here. There are at least 4 cabinet ministers who will lose their seats, their constituencies at the next election, unless they keep the Muslim vote. The Labour Party is going to desperately need every Muslim vote it can get at the next election. This decision by the government today, or the cabinet today, can be nothing to do with the Middle East. It's all to do with domestic politics, isn't it?
Well, whatever the motivation is, what is extremely clear is that the only people who are going to benefit from this are Hamas. They're the only people who are going to get any comfort from this at all. Now, it's very straightforward. If Keir Starmer wants a ceasefire, Israel has been saying for a long time that all Hamas has got to do to secure a ceasefire is to release all the hostages. They have not done that. And now Keir Starmer is effectively rewarding them for their terrorist actions. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I just cannot believe, if the motivation is political in this country at this time, despite the fact the next election is 4 years away, even if that is the motivation, I can't believe that he cannot see beyond his nose on this one, because all he's doing is frustrating an ultimate victory or an ultimate agreement or an ultimate ceasefire or an ultimate anything. He's frustrating that by jumping the gun, demanding recognition for Palestine at a time when Hamas is still in control and is still committing atrocities.
Absolutely. And what he's done with this decision is he's destroyed what little relationship Britain had left with Israel and with Benjamin Netanyahu, which I think was a valuable relationship. We are very old allies. It's a shame to see that destroyed. Also, he's alienated Donald Trump, his apparent new best friend, and alienated America. America and Trump still stand foursquare with Israel. So we didn't have to do this, and yet he's done it, and I can't see any positives to it apart from the Muslim vote for Labour. But apart from that, I think it's done damage to us internationally, don't you?
Well, I think it's done damage to us internationally. I mean, there hasn't been a great rush to join what the French have done. So clearly the international community doesn't think this is such a wonderful idea. Now, everybody wants a final two-state solution at the end. Everybody wants that. But you don't get it by giving in to Hamas at this point and by coming to these conclusions quite outside any negotiations that are going on. So you may well be right about the motivation, but, you know, there are another 4 years to go. He could have hung on a bit longer if that's all he's worried about.
The British ambassador, the Israeli ambassador to Britain, Shippy Hotovely, she's warned that recognising Palestine rewards murder, rape and torture. She's got a point. She's got a point, hasn't she?
Well, clearly it does. As I said just now, he's just rewarded Hamas for their terrorist activities, and that includes all the atrocities that were committed on the 7th of October, which started this latest flare-up. And it is just effectively what he's saying to them is, oh, you just keep on going and you'll win. That's what he is saying, and it is beyond irresponsible.
And in his statement, or the summary of what happened at this cabinet meeting, or this is sort of Starmer's statement, he said the UK will recognise the state of Palestine in September unless, wait for it, the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, reaches a ceasefire, makes clear there will be no annexation of the West Bank, and commits to a long-term peace process that delivers a two-state solution. Well, so he's very, very dictatorial with the Israelis. The only thing he says about Hamas is he reminds Hamas that they still would like the hostages to be released. So it's all down on Israel, as if Israel is the villain of the story, and Hamas gets off scot-free. What is he playing at here?
Well, what he's playing at, for some reason, is giving in to the very considerable forces in his own party, which have been, I wouldn't call it pro-Palestine, I'd call it pro-Hamas, throughout this entire saga. And you're quite right. I mean, by laying down, I mean, this is outside any international negotiations. It's just Keir Starmer acting like, you know, some dictator. By laying down conditions that he expects Israel to meet. Oh, well, I mean, I don't imagine. I'm with you. I don't imagine Israel will spend 2 seconds worrying about that. But it is just such a disgrace to Britain that he's done this.
I think it's the biggest irrelevance to happen to Israel since Macron recognised Palestine. These two-bit Europeans are making their big decisions about this Israel. They like to boss Israel around. Now, we had on the show earlier, Anne, Paul Harris, the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, and he said that for him, and many Jewish people, it was just sort of shades of Corbyn again, that he just sensed in this kind of innate dislike of Israel that so many Labour politicians seem to have. He said this is a result of antipathy towards Israel by the Labour Party, and I tend to agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, you know, the forces within his party that have been supportive of the forces against Israel throughout this business. It is indeed, there is still latent anti-Semitism. Now, I have never said that criticising the Israeli government is in itself proof of anti-Semitism. It certainly isn't. You can criticise any government in any country, in any part of the world. So I don't think that. But I think the emphasis that there has been on supporting Palestine when Israel suffered so enormously, and has always said, release the hostages, you know, and you'll get your ceasefire. They won't release the hostages. Why isn't he calling upon Hamas to take the first step instead of laying down about 6 or 7 conditions for Israel and then throwing one into Hamas as an afterthought.
Exactly right. Now, one last point, really, if I can call upon your knowledge. What does it mean? How can you recognise a state that isn't a state? I don't want to be disparaging about Palestine at the moment, but basically it's a pile of rubble. And what is the point of saying, well, we recognise Palestine as a state when everybody knows it isn't a state? What's the point?
Well, I suppose his point would be that, most of the world thinks we need some sort of two-state solution. He can't do it on his own like this outside all the international framework. I mean, that is nonsense. America will never go along with this. So, now, what is the point? What is the point? Whom is he trying to please?
Well, it's not most of the electorate, I'll tell you that. You should see my switchboard. They are not happy. Listen, let me ask you one more question if I can, Anne. What did you make today of Peter Kyle, the Science and Technology Secretary, going on live TV, Sky News, and accusing Nigel Farage of siding with Jimmy Savile because Nigel, like many of us, including me, has reservations about the Online Safety Act. He believes, as millions of Brits do as well, that whilst it may go some way towards protecting children from the horrific dangers of the internet, it also goes a long way towards suppressing freedom of speech. So it was a very valid criticism that Nigel Farage delivered, and for that a Labour Secretary of State goes onto television and basically says he's Jimmy Savile's best friend. That was, Nigel says, I want an apology, that was disgusting. I agree with him, it was disgusting, wasn't it?
Yes, it was disgusting. I don't know why Peter Kyle said that. Let me just make this clear. There is no doubt at all that Reform is fully committed to protecting children online. We are fully committed to that. What we have said is that this Act goes way beyond that. There's even a Conservative MP complaining, that people couldn't access their speech because of this. It goes way beyond that. It is massive censorship. But although we will repeal this Act, and we are not just going to leave the issue of children up in the air and unprotected. We will not do that. We will introduce measures to protect children at the same time as we repeal the Act.
The thing about Kyle is he sort of maintained, or he tried to give the delusion that the Online Safety Act is purely to protect children. That's the only thing about it. Well, for example, as you said, that Tory MP had her speech blocked, and over the weekend, members of the public were blocked from watching footage of the asylum seeker hotel protest in Leeds because of the Online Safety Act. So it isn't just about kids, it's those elements of it that we worry about. So Kyle is mischaracterising. He's saying, well, if you're against this act, then you don't want to protect children, you don't mind children getting into harm online. That's rubbish, isn't it?
Well, it's total rubbish. I don't know what got into Peter Kyle's head. It's a grossly irresponsible statement to make. Either he was very tired or he was very confused, or I don't know what. But what I do know is that is not a fair representation of Reform's attitude towards this Act, which is that, of course, we want to protect children. By the way, it isn't at all clear that this Act does protect children. There are enormous deficiencies in it. But we will make sure that at the same time as we get rid of this censorship, and we're going to get rid of an awful lot of censorship when Reform comes to power, we will at the same time ensure that children are protected. And as Nigel said, we've got some of the best tech brains in the country to call upon. They will engage upon this. They'll come up with a far more convincing answer.
Anne, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Anne Widdecombe, Reform spokesperson, about, well, two stories really. The Online Safety Act, which, by the way, folks, as Anne quite rightly says, it's dubious whether it protects children in any significant way anyway, so it's not a very good act. But more to the point, it blocks freedom of speech and freedom of expression in many sinister and worrying ways. For example, you couldn't get to see footage of the protest of the Leeds outside the Leeds Asylum Seeker Hotel over the weekend because of the Online Safety Act. What's that got to do with kids? That's censorship. That's Stasi-style censorship, isn't it? So that's why we're worried about that act. It isn't true to say it is just about protecting children, and if you don't like that act, you've got no interest in protecting children. Shame on Peter Kyle. Shame on him. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to take some of your calls. So stick around, folks.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In just a little while, we're going to be talking about Klaus Schwab. He's the he was the 87-year-old boss of the World Economic Forum, that sinister outfit that runs that weird conflab every year in Davos. Well, he's 87 years old. He's been running it for 55 years. Now he's been kicked out all of a sudden for inappropriate behaviour around women and the misuse of funds. It's a dramatic and dizzying fall from grace. Shame, eh? We'll talk about that in just a little while. First, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Jack in Gravesend. Hi, Jack.
Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan.
How are you, mate?
Oh, so angry. This government...
It's making me angry as well.
This government just collectively amongst any of them just do not seem to possess a spine.
I'll tell you, Jack, the one thing that occurred to me about this, right, I think it's a terrible decision. I don't see what we get out of it, except for alienating Israel and America. Doesn't feed a single kid, does nothing towards bringing about a ceasefire, but of course it does do quite a lot for the Muslim vote for the Labour Party, so that's probably what it's all about. But I'll tell you what really annoyed me about this. When I heard over the weekend, I think it was, that Keir Starmer had called an emergency cabinet meeting and had called the cabinet secretaries and ministers back from their holidays to this very urgent confab, I assumed it would be about the rising tide of fury sweeping this country about asylum seeker hotels and all these protests and the escalating migrant crisis. But no, it's not about the crisis here as this country falls apart at the seams. It's about a crisis in a foreign country thousands of miles away. When will this government start thinking about us?
It's that typical case of, oh, don't look over there, look over here, where we're all focused. It's to bow down and give in to a prescribed terrorist organisation and give what is wanted for that situation. Like you say, nothing to do with this country. And as you've stated, the tension that it now causes, even in the essence of diplomatic situations with Israel, they're no longer going to want to know this government. They're no longer want to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, our relationship with Israel was very fractured anyway, but we did have something left. So what was left of our relationship with Netanyahu and Israel is now utterly destroyed. We have no links to them whatsoever, which I think is bad and unhealthy. It's one of our oldest allies. We helped create Israel, for God's sake. So we're out in the cold as far as Netanyahu's concerned, but probably more importantly, this will alienate Donald Trump and America, who continues to stand foursquare with Israel. So he's ruined his alleged special friendship with Donald.
Well, sit down, Starmer. And that's the point. The US and Trump's now got his last few years left in. Mm-hmm. The problem being is, well, not the problem, but the future looking like that Vance will then take over from him if it looks that way. And hats off. But the thing is, I don't think Vance has the same love for this country that Trump has.
No, exactly. But I mean, I think that his relationship, his alleged special relationship with Starmer, is Starmer begs him to throw us a few scraps and please be Britain's friend. And Trump just sort of plays him like a fiddle and pulls him around like a puppet on a string. That's his relationship, but it's better than nothing. It did get us some kind of a trade deal, or a reasonably better trade deal than we would have got if we were still in the EU. But that's the relationship. But I think he'll have done a lot of damage to that today by announcing, by annoying Trump by announcing he's going to recognise Palestine.
Trump will see this as going behind his back.
Yeah.
He's not going to take well to this. He won't. A big character. It's not going to go down well. But I suppose as long as Starmer's got a letter in his pocket to pull out, it might benefit a little bit.
I'll tell you, Jack, in my view, there's only one reason for this. Strange recognising of a state that isn't a state. It's pointless anyway. Palestine, just because we decide to recognise Palestine as a state doesn't make it a state. We're recognising a non-state as a state, even though it remains not a state. And by the way, I don't say this with any relish, but what is Palestine now? It's a pile of rubble. So we just recognised a construction site, basically. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You might as well recognise Chingford or something like that. Jack, good call. Got to move on, though. Thank you very much. Jack in Gravesend there. Breaking news. Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a statement. I think he put it on Truth Social, interestingly, Donald Trump's social media site. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, had to say. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. Netanyahu making his fury very, very clear. I kind of share his fury. What do you think? What is our Prime Minister up to with this? It's horrible. It's ridiculous. It doesn't achieve anything except a bit of virtue signalling, and boy oh boy, it might be worth a few Muslim votes at the next election. That ain't going to save you, Starmer. You're too lousy for that. But he thinks it might. By the way, there's about 4 cabinet ministers, including Angela Rayner, Jonathan Reynolds, the fake solicitor, and who's West Streeting. There may be a couple of others as well. But those 3, if they lose the Muslim votes in their constituency, they lose their seats at the next election. So that's what's going on here. This is the Labour Party shoring up its Muslim vote because it needs it. It's disgusting, isn't it? Disgusting. Rewarding rape, torture and murder. That's what I'll read you Netanyahu's statement again. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Listen to that. Appeasement towards jihadist terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. Let's go to break. We'll talk about the world's globalist-in-chief, Klaus Schwab, next. He has fallen from grace. Oh dear. Pass me the world's smallest violin, eh? That next. Stay tuned.
There are no words to describe what happened. It's kind of not the job of the public to do so. It's for the families to articulate what matters to them, particularly in the aftermath. And all of them have established charities in the name of their children, and each have found their own way to either live with or overcome their difficulties.
Peter Kyle, I don't know what's taken possession of him, but to use the hideous pedo Jimmy Savile as a political tool is just, it is the lowest of the lows. It shows how desperate the Labour Party are, how much panic they are in. They can't beat us through normal argument and policy, so they're now resorting to this. It'll backfire against them, but it's just not where we should be going in the way of debating things.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. His downfall has been described as dizzying. We're talking about the King of Davos, the world's globalist in chief, Klaus Schwab, who of course ran the World Economic Forum for 55 years. He's 87. But he has been defenestrated in spectacular style, accused of inappropriate behaviour towards women, allegedly shoving his crotch into a female staffer's face. He's also accused of splurging $50 million on a luxury villa, and he ran up £836,000 in expenses that were not sufficiently linked to WEF activities. In other words, he's accused of misusing funds and inappropriate behaviour towards women, and he's been kicked out after more than half a century. He denies all these charges, but he's gone. Now, this is the guy who, after the pandemic, after the lockdowns, wrote The Great Reset about how the pandemic could remake global economies. What he was very keen on was not democracy, but kind of technocrats. You know, governments, leaders of countries getting together with businessmen and tycoons to work things out to the advantage of the elite. And those of us plebs casting our votes in our little democratic countries, we didn't really matter. What mattered to him were all the people who flew in on private jets to his ludicrous annual conflab, the World Economic Forum in the Swiss mountains in Davos. But he's gone. He's gone. Let's talk to social and political commentator James Melville. Hi, James.
Evening, Kevin. You well?
I'm very, very well. Your thoughts? Klaus Schwab has gone. He's gone in ignominy. Now, this guy, you know, he's a German teacher from lowly beginnings. He brought together world leaders, national leaders, tycoons, businessmen. His idea of the way the world ought to run was that these important people, these elites, got together from the world of business and from the world of politics and worked out our lives for us, never mind democracies. That was his vision. He's gone. A lot of people will say, damn good thing too. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of the big problems that's been creeping around, particularly since COVID, where there's a certain element of diktat and rule and agendas from these technocratic global institutions. You could argue there's aspects of the EU like this as well, where it starts off possibly for the right reasons, then bloats over time. And yet you've got our Prime Minister, the great Keir Starmer, who went on record and said, what does he prefer, Westminster or Davos? And he said, Davos, which is in keeping with, I think, what people think about him, that he's effectively a technocratic prime minister and struts around places like Davos trying to tell us plebs how to live our lives. But meanwhile, you've got motorcades and private jets where they're telling us plebs how to live and, you know, mind our carbon emissions. It is a serious point, though, where I think, you know, Schwab and the WF in some ways have been sort of pointed out to be slightly ludicrous in terms of their aims. But there is a serious point to this. When you've got leaders like Keir Starmer who seem to prioritise swanning off to these jamborees of virtue, when actually the aims of these organisations are actually the exact opposite. They're quite nefarious. And ultimately, there's a problem with democracy here. Because, you know, Starmer, when his priority is things like Davos, and you've got these institutions that have been bloated up with WF and many others, this is part of the core problem. Until we get back to proper democracy, where politicians are serving the people in their own country rather than strutting off to Davos, nothing's going to change. And I think this has really emerged since COVID, where people are looking at this and saying, actually, this sort of technocratic institutional behaviour is unacceptable.
Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theory action that surrounds Davos with some justification. I mean, you know, the extreme conspiracy theorists talk of, you know, world leaders and the king all getting together in smoke-filled rooms to decide on the future of the world. I don't think it's quite as sinister as that, but definitely it's predicated on the principle that if world leaders, if elected national leaders get together with tycoons, businessmen, and ask them what they need and then facilitate them. They all do very well, and then they think in terms of trickle-down economics. But it's all about dividing everything up between senior or top politicians and top businessmen. And the people of the world, those of us who are just little pawns in the game, we feel rather left out. But don't forget, Tony Blair was very keen on Davos. Cameron was very keen. Our leaders for some time now have loved that conflab. And frankly, I'm not sure it was ever that healthy.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's almost like a PR machine, WEF, for various agendas. I mean, net zero is one of them, you know, which is going to be framed against farming in many ways as well. And, you know, the one thing that isn't a conspiracy theory connected to this is that there is this kind of global blob that's emerged through corporatism, whereby, you, as you touched on, you get these leaders, you know, clinking their glasses and smoke and mirrors meetings to decide or set agendas that go back to domestic policy. And I don't think that should be the place of our politicians to get involved with that. We've got a number of major issues in the UK, and one of the major problems that we have with our politicians right now is politicians like Starmer seem more interested in strutting off to places like Davos, where it almost boosts their ego that they're on the global stage, rather than getting their hands dirty with the bread and butter stuff that we need to get fixed in this country. And this is, I think, why Nigel Farage and Reform are doing quite well, because they're talking about things that are hitting the zeitgeist in terms of concerns about the people. It is stuff that's happening in people's streets, in their businesses, in their communities that have felt forgotten about for decades now, and made worse when you get the likes of Blair and also Starmer, and to an extent Sunak was the same, where they spend more time going off to these unelected institutions to talk about saving the planet, when actually what they should be doing is saving the livelihoods of the people who pay their wages and also demand change within their own country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. I agree with you. Here's the thing, James. Davos, the very existence of the annual Davos get-together, is now, because of the defenestration of Klaus Schwab, under a cloud. It's possible that they won't have any more Davoses. And do you know what difference that will make to the world? None whatsoever. So we don't need Davos. Nobody needs Davos. A few businessmen make a few quid out of it. A few politicians do rather nicely out of it. As for the rest of us, Davos could come, go, never happen again, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. So forget it. If it's over, good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also about the agendas that are set in these organisations. So you take something like net zero, which is a major sort of agenda-led, so all the papers that are produced, it's all there by the WEF, which then bleeds and nudges into what's happening domestically in governments. When actually what should be happening is the government should be ignoring all of that stuff and focusing what is right in front of them, and that's the concerns of the people in their own country. But Starmer is a perfect example of this. I mean, look at the amount of overseas trips he's had in his first year in power. I mean, it's quite nice to stay in a 5-star hotel and fly private jet and then tell us plebs that we need to save the planet, when actually what he should be doing is properly listening to the concerns, of which there are many, of the communities he's supposed to serve, rather than giving off the impression that he is much more in thrall to these technocratic institutions.
Which is what he is, and now he's busy recognising Palestine. One day, James, Keir Starmer might think about us, you know, the citizens of Britain, but don't bet the farm on it. Good to talk to you again, James. Take care. See you soon. Next up, we're going to talk about 1 year on from Southport. What have we learnt, if anything? That next. Stay tuned.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, when more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, 20 minutes or so, we're going to take your calls. The lines are open. A lot of people want to talk about Palestine, us or Britain recognising Palestine. Why are we doing this? What's that all about? Ridiculous. Also, you might want to talk about the asylum seeker crisis, which is getting worse and worse and worse. So give me a call, 03444991000. By the way, another 212 migrants came across yesterday. So that means since last Wednesday, 855 have crossed the English Channel to the promised land, to Britain. Those people alone over the next year will cost us £34 million. They cost £40,000 a year each, these migrants. So every time you hear of a boat with 50 people on it, that's going to add up to a lot of money that you're going to pay for. And we saw last night, at long last, what it's really like in these hotels, and it ain't half bad if you're a migrant. I mean, we're giving them a free life, free food, free phone calls to their home country, free everything, free taxis for their kids to school. Their kids don't walk to school, they don't get their bus, they get free taxis picking them up. We've got ambulances calling every day, private ambulances sometimes. We've got police cars, we've got social workers, hives of activity, hives of expensive activity, convoys of trucks delivering more and more food, more and more toiletries, more and more necessities. And we're paying for every single thing. And half the blokes in these migrant hotels, because they're mostly young men of sexually active age, they're working. You know, they're working at construction sites. There was one in the hotel that we focused on yesterday, Copthorne. He was a tattoo artist. There are also, of course, the traditional bicycle food delivery jobs. So half of them are working, and yet they don't have to pay anything. They don't have to pay for their accommodation, they don't have to pay for their food, they don't have to pay for anything. We're paying for it. It's mad, folks. It's insane. 03444991000. Now, Before we get to any of that, let's talk about the unhappiest of birthdays, shall we? It won't have escaped your notice that this is the 1-year anniversary from the horror in Southport when Axel Rudakabana, that little animal, killed 3 poor little girls and injured many more in scenes of horror, scenes of carnage, knifing them to death in a frenzied way. Now, following that, there were riots all over the country as we feared that the culprit, the suspect, was a migrant. Turned out he wasn't a migrant, he was a migrant's son. The authorities kept so much secret from us. They kept it secret that Axel Rudakabana, when they raided his house, his family home, they found an Al-Qaeda training manual and enough ricin poison to kill thousands of people. They didn't tell us that. They kept that secret because they thought we couldn't handle that and we'd riot. Well, people were already rioting. So the question really is that after all those riots, after two-tier Keir turned into Stalin and started throwing people into jail, 385 people went to jail with indecent haste, arrested at those disturbances, charged within a day, in court within 2 days, in jail within 4. You know, really, really racing through their legal system, because normally most people charged with offences in this country will wait 2 years for an offence. So there was this special two-tier policing. 12 people went to jail for writing nasty, hurty words on social media. Do you want to live in a country like that, where you get sent to jail for stuff you write on Facebook or Twitter? Is that the kind of country you want to live in? Because Keir Starmer thinks that's great. I don't. What have we learned, though, over the past year? 1 year on, have we learned anything? Let's ask the Chief Executive of Fair Cop and a former police officer, Harry Miller. Hello, Harry.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Interesting question you've posed there, I've got to say. What have we learnt indeed? Well, I think the government has learnt the age-old lesson that most tyrants learn, that if you can't generate your own crisis, you seize upon one, which is what happened a year ago, and use that as the excuse to bring in all kinds of ridiculous, draconian measures which normally we would not put up with. But in the name of national security, or as I like to call it, government insecurity, they usher in they usher in these measures, and of course they stick around like a bad smell. They just simply don't go away. So I think the number one thing that Keir Starmer has learned is how to make the most of a terrible accident and a terrible event, and make it all about him. That's what we've learnt about this, I think. And I think the rest of us, those of us who have genuine concerns about migration, those of us who never believed the lie that the atrocity was committed by a Welsh schoolboy, a Welsh choir boy.
Choir boy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We, of course, are now far-right adjacent. And with this online safety act that's being rolled out, following today's statement by Peter Kyle, we are now, those of us who were critical of it, are now Jimmy Savile adjacent as well. I mean, we are being absolutely thrown to the dogs. If you criticise this government, if you criticise immigration, then you are smeared with the most despicable, horrendous smears that this government is capable of. I think that's what we've learned primarily.
We've learned that, Harry. What has Keir Starmer and the government and the authorities, what have they learned? I don't think they've learned anything, because their tactics after the horror in the dance hall and the subsequent riots, their tactics to deal with the riots were basically to turn Britain into sort of 1970s East Germany, kick in the Stasi cops and arrest everybody that moved. I'm not saying that some of those rioters didn't deserve the full force of the law. No one's condoning throwing bricks at the police or trying to set fire to migrant hotels or mosques. Nobody is condoning that. But we know that of the 385 people who went to jail, many of them didn't deserve to, especially the 12 who just wrote hurty words on Twitter and Facebook, on social media. So we know that. So his technique, Starmer's technique, to stop the riots, to stop the trouble, was to basically arrest everybody that breathed and then throw them in jail, which of course did have the effect of temporarily stopping the trouble, the disturbances, but that's just putting a cork into a very fizzy bottle. It's not going to last that long. And here we are a year on, and what is he doing? What is he doing after the asylum seeker hotel protests, after Epping? The police are releasing video of them bashing down doors, arresting alleged far-right thugs, issuing statements saying, you do this or the full force of the law will come down on you. Of course, you're okay if you're left-wing. If you're left-wing, then they'll escort you from the station and give you a lift home. But if you're right-wing, they're on it again. So in other words, we have shades of last summer all over again. If these asylum seeker hotel protests escalate, as I fear they will, I hope they don't, but I fear they will, Starmer is going to act exactly the same way as he did last summer. Therefore, this guy, the authorities, the police have learned nothing.
That's right. The problem with Keir Starmer is that he is fundamentally a prosecutor, and the job of the prosecution is to look at the other side and defeat them. You've got to show that they are guilty of having a terrible, evil mindset, which accompanies their terrible, evil actions. And that may be all well and good if you're the chief prosecutor, but it's not very good if you're the Prime Minister. He's supposed to be the Prime Minister for one nation. He's supposed to be the Prime Minister for all of us, not just those that voted for him. But he sees everything with that mindset. You know, they've always said, didn't they, that if all you have in your toolbox is a hammer, you will see every problem as a nail. And this is what Keir Starmer does. He ascribes right-wingism, fascism to everybody and every problem that he does not like. That is the issue that we've got here, Kevin. And with the rolling out of the Online Safety Act, which, by the way, will do absolutely nothing in terms of protecting children. Children can just go out there, get a VPN, and get onto whatever website they want to. What it will stop is people like you and I from finding out what's going on in the news, because all it takes is for a government minister to say, oh, that bit of news is dangerous. And by that, they mean dangerous to us.
Yep.
They're protecting themselves. They're not protecting children. They're protecting themselves. And then what happens is they threaten the online companies with massive fines. 10% of your national global income can be the fine. And of course, they censor us. So we're not able to read about what's happening. The government has learned to close by degree the Overton window, so there becomes less and less and less that we can discuss, less and less that we can broadcast, less and less that you can say, Kevin, because eventually they're going to be coming for you. Yeah. I mean, they've come for Alison Pearson already. I think you, Mike, Julia, are going to be next.
Yeah, well, certainly I think we'll be in the firing line. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But the other element of what went on last summer, which is coming back to haunt us, which Keir Starmer, again, hasn't learned from his mistakes. He's just going to repeat them. So I said the other night, what we're going to get in months to come, if you ask me, is probably a rancid repeat of the rubbish movie we didn't enjoy last summer. It's going to come back to haunt us. And the other element of the mistakes he made was secrecy. Throwing a veil of secrecy over everything, so the naughty kids that we call the British public can't find out about the kind of things that would make them very annoyed. So when we talk in terms of the migrant crisis, we are learning late in life, to be honest with you, that for the first 6 months of this year, migrants, asylum seekers around the country have been charged with something like 340 serious crimes, and about 30 of them were sex crimes. And what's happening? We only found this out because two newspapers, The Sun and the Mail on Sunday, investigated it. What's happened? What happens, Harry, when an asylum seeker is charged with rape or is accused of a sexual assault? The authorities try to cover it up, like they did in Portsmouth, where councillors and council officials were told, oh, well, you can say there's been a rape, but you can't say that the accused is living at the local asylum seeker hotel, the Royal Beach Hotel in Southsea. We know that similar veils of secrecy over similar incidents have happened in Manchester and London. And it's this secrecy to don't tell the people that these asylum seekers, that these young men of sexually active age that we let into the country, that we know nothing about, don't tell the people of Britain that they're committing sex crimes, that they're raping British women. Don't tell them. Make sure they don't find that out. Well, you know, in a democracy, trying to keep secrets like that is a recipe for disaster. It's not going to work. So in other words, that's what he tried to do last year, keeping it a secret about the ricin, the Al-Qaeda manual, the true nature of Axel Rudakabana's background. He did it last year and he's doing it again. He hasn't learned anything, this guy, has he?
No, I agree. And again, getting back to the Online Safety Act, it's now a crime to tell a knowing falsehood if it causes somebody non-trivial psychological harm. Well, this presupposes one set of truths, and who's going to be the arbiter of that? It's going to be the Minister of Truth. It's going to be Keir Starmer and his cronies. But what there ought to be, Kevin, in all honesty, if you're going to have that, then there needs to be a similar law that makes the government not hide things from us and lie to us as they do and spread misinformation like they do and create a knowledge vacuum just by staying silent. And of course, nature hates a vacuum. So when they're silent or when they just offer blank denials about something which we all know or suspect to be the truth, then of course people are going to speculate. They're going to guess. They're going to use their reason and logic and say, well, when this happened before, and when it happened the time before that, and the time before that, then it was something to do with migrants. It was something to do with Islam. It was something to do with these things. Now, if you're not able to speculate like that, if speculation, purely speculating, makes you a de facto criminal, then we are in a terrible, terrible situation. And I'll tell you something else. Hardeep Singh wrote an excellent piece today in the Telegraph about the up-and-coming definition of Islamophobia, where if you mention somebody's Muslimness or perceived Muslimness, that itself is going to be a crime. So yet again, we're going to be having the Overton window shut so that we can only discuss matters of which the government approves. And of course, the things that we are able to discuss will be to the government's benefit, and that's that.
Absolutely.
So I think we're in a terrible situation.
Yeah, and lest we forget, while Peter Kyle, the Science and Technology Secretary, was on TV today accusing Nigel Farage of being on Jimmy Savile's side because Nigel Farage, like you, me and millions of other Brits, have got serious reservations about this rubbish act, the Online Safety Act. It's no good. And it does a lot more than protect. It's dubious whether it protects children at all. But it does a lot more than just protect children. At the weekend, you probably know this, Harry, but at the weekend, you members of the public, you, me, anyone, we were blocked from watching footage of the protest outside the Asylum Seeker Hotel in Leeds. What were we blocked by? The Online Safety Act. The Online Safety Act is the enemy of free speech.
Well, I was arrested and questioned under caution in November under the auspices of the Online Safety Act because I'd misgendered my police stalker. I'd called my police stalker a he.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that. I ended up arresting the sergeant for gross stupidity, if you recall. But it's interesting.
I hope he's doing 10 years for it now.
But it's very interesting, of course, because Milton Friedman, God bless him, says that we should not judge a policy by its intention, but by its actual use. And I think by that measure, I think this is going to be worse than a failure, because no children are going to be saved from harm, and lots of innocent people like you and me are going to be dragged through the mill and criminalised and shut down on the basis of this act. That, I think, is the real problem.
I agree with you. One last point, Harry. The basis of this conversation is what have we learned? Well, I think we've established that Keir Starmer and the government have learned the square root of sod all. They've learned nothing. They're making the same mistakes they made last summer all over again. What have the people learned? Well, I think we have learned something in the last year since that. There was a sense that what happened in Southport was a kind of shocking cultural watershed. We all woke up and said, what is going on in this country? This is what we've learned, the people of this country. It's not a healthy thing. I think it's healthy insofar as it's the truth. But we've learned not to trust our government. We've learned that they're liars, that they keep secrets from us, that under no circumstances should these people be trusted. Now, I think it's good that we've come to this realisation, but it's not good for the country when you have a population that literally cannot stand its government and does not trust the Prime Minister. That isn't good, but that's what we've learned.
Yeah, I agree. And much as I'm not a huge fan of foreign ministers, prime minister, presidents, etc., interfering in British politics, I've got to say it was a joy to see Donald Trump make Keir Starmer look like a little crybaby, non-politician, non-person that he is. It was just embarrassing. We talk about a rabbit caught in the headlights. That was Keir Starmer. We are being led by a complete and utter donkey, and he just doesn't care about the mistakes he's making, because I don't think he's really aware of them. He's so self-obsessed, he's so myopic, he sees everything that is against him, he sees as a far-right fascist that needs defeating. So he's not going to learn. I think we've just got to put up with it until it's time to get rid.
Yeah, unfortunately that might take 4 years, and what happens in the next 4 years doesn't bear thinking about. Harry, excellent to link up with you again. Good to have you on the show. Let's get you back on again very soon. That's Harry Miller, Chief Executive of Fair Cop and also a former police officer himself. So let me know what have you learned anything in the past year? Do you think the government's learned anything? Do you think Keir Starmer's learned anything? I think he's not. I think he's just making the same mistakes as he did last year. So I don't think he has. I don't think the government have. Have we learned something? As I say, I think we've learned just don't trust the government. Don't trust this government. Don't trust this Prime Minister. But let me know what you think, if you've got any ideas about how we might have changed in the last year and what we might have learned. 0344 499 1000. We'll go to break now. When we come back, your calls, your WhatsApp messages and your texts. So lots still to come. Stick around.
this was obviously someone who needed to be taken off the streets, who needed to be dealt with, who needed to be put in some kind of institution, and yet because he didn't fit into one category or the other, it was a computer says no.
It was totally, yeah.
So, and then it's because of that kind of fundamental failure, because of the fact that this is the sort of thing that people have almost come to expect from a government and a state that seemingly can't keep even its most vulnerable citizens safe. It's precisely that mistrust of the establishment which helps create the kind of atmosphere that we saw afterwards.
There are no words to describe what happened. It's kind of not the job of the public to do so. It's for the families to articulate what matters to them, particularly in the aftermath. And all of them have established charities in the name of their children, and each have found their own way to either live with or over.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You know, I said that I played you some WhatsApp voice notes. Well, we're going to take calls. We're going to read some of your texts. A bit of a problem with the WhatsApp voice notes. We've got 4 million of them, so it's going to take a bit of a time. But we'll try and work through them. We haven't got 4 million, but we've got a lot. Here's Chloe on Keir Starmer.
Every day we wake up to a new mess up from our Prime Minister. Today it's the Palestinian appeasement. Yesterday it was his embarrassment with Trump. I've never known such an incompetent, inadequate, inept, downright stupid Prime Minister in all my life. Now we reward terrorists for killing Jews, do we? That's what we do.
Apparently so, Chloe. That's a brilliant WhatsApp voice note. I couldn't have put it better myself. Let's listen to Pete on the migrant hotels.
That hotel that the illegal immigrants are getting put up with, Kevin, I'm shocked. How many of our pensioners will live in houses, right, that have that level of luxury and heating and hot water and free breakfasts? How many of our ex-military live in luxury hotel rooms like that? Very few or none at all. It's a national disgrace. Keir Starmer, resign. Labour government, resign.
Matt, I wish they would resign, but it's unlikely. And by the way, that hotel, the Copthorne Hotel, you hear about the winter fuel allowance, pensioners literally around the country freezing to death. In the Copthorne Hotel, a lot of the residents, because they come from hot foreign climates, they turn their room temperatures up to sort of astronomically hot. Steamy hot in order to replicate conditions in their home country. Of course, they don't have to pay the bill. We do. Good, isn't it? Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Ian in London. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Kevin. You asked what we've learnt in the last 24 hours.
Well, actually, I asked what we learnt in the last year, but I'll take 24 hours. Go on.
Right. Basically, you had Dummer there sitting next to Trump yesterday.
Dummer, yeah. Yes.
Right? He's become even dumber today. Mm-hmm. Basically, there's 3 issues I've got. One, it's been proven already today, blackmail wins. The doctors have done them over with blackmail, correct? They went on strike, got them more money. Now they're going on strike, they want more money.
Yeah, as we all knew that they would. Naive Labour thought that, if you give the doctors a good deal, then they won't come back for more. Yeah, right.
Okay, number 2, again, blackmail with Hamas and the Muslims on the and the left wingers. We want you, unless you recognise Palestine, we're going to sort of vote against you. So It backs down again.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But the biggest thing nobody has mentioned today and really gets my goat is Sarah Champion. This was a woman, an MP, that stood up and said about the Muslim rape gangs, and now she's rewarding rape gangs as long as they rape Jewish boys and girls.
That's what recognising Palestine is being seen as, a reward for rape, murder and torture.
But didn't she do that? She went out of her way. She was the first one to get this letter to recognise it, and yet she was the one that she got thrown out of Labour because she made a whole thing up in, was it Warrington or whatever, where she came from, trying to expose it. And now she's going along saying, oh, it's okay, as long as it's Jewish girls or Jewish boys in Israel.
Well, I mean, that effectively, you could argue that's what she's saying. She's not actually saying it, but I take your point. A lot of hypocrisy going on in terms of Labour. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's Keir Starmer. God knows what he's up to. Well, I think we know what he's up to, but it's nothing to do with Gaza. You know, recognising Palestine is purely because of his own problems at home. I got a note here from, let's see if I can find it. Well, basically, oh yeah, here we are. This is from David in Stoke-on-Trent. He says, regarding recognising Palestine, is this Starmer trying to win back support from Jeremy Corbyn's new party? That's a very good point by David, isn't it? That's exactly what this is all about. It's about getting the Muslim vote for the Labour Party and making sure Corbyn doesn't steal it away because they need it for the next election. It's nothing to do with Gaza. It doesn't achieve anything in Gaza at all. It is just low-life, sordid domestic politics. Ian, I'm with you all the way. Thank you for an excellent call. I've got to move on, but thank you. Ian in London. Should we play one quick WhatsApp voice note? Did we do Matt? Has we done Matt? Matt, this is Matt on the migrant hotels.
This migrant hotel situation is getting almost beyond belief. It is ridiculous how much we are paying for this. The hotel in the news recently that's near Gatwick that's got a buffet breakfast, buffet lunch and dinner, all paid for by us, right? That would normally be about 80 to 100 quid on top of your nightly fee for the room. We're all paying for it. What? I don't even want to pay for someone else's meal that I know and I like. I'm eating my food. I'm paying for it. You pay for your own food. Like, the solution is to do what? Put them in private rentals? Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, the solution is don't let them come here in the first place, if you ask me. But do you know what? Matt's right. Good WhatsApp voice note there, Matt. What this situation needs, it needs, the little boy and the emperor with new clothes to come in and just someone to just say, hang on, this is absolutely barking mad, totally insane. And then for somebody to say, yes, you're right, let's stop doing it. But we are lost in the 7 circles of mad hell at the moment with this asylum seeker crisis. It's really, really bad. Let's go to break. More of your calls when we come back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Tony from Bournemouth sent me a text. He said, I have never seen a Prime Minister and Cabinet so out of their depth. This is scary stuff. It's as clear as day that world politics for Starmer and crew is like asking a 5-year-old to take an A-level maths exam, totally beyond them. Tony Denson, thanks for giving us our voice. You're welcome, Tony. Call in or text in anytime you like. That's what we're here for. This is a shrinking area of common sense in this country. Very few places left where you can hear common sense. You mostly just hear virtue signalling, halo polishing madness. Here, this is the home of free speech and common sense. 03444991000. Let's play another one of our many WhatsApp voice notes. This is Katie on Labour.
Hi, Kev. Just wanted to say, if you're on an aeroplane that's about to crash, you're told to sort out your own oxygen first before helping anyone else. Exactly what part of this government doesn't seem to understand? The economics are on a knife edge. The whole country seems to be raging, and yet they believe they should be looking after other people before us. What the...
Exactly right, Katie. I mean, that's what annoyed me. This was an emergency cabinet meeting. The country, Britain, falling apart at the seams. The asylum seeker protests spiralling. The migrant crisis out of control. Law and order falling apart. And they have an emergency meeting about a country thousands of miles away without mentioning their own country. Why don't they start prioritising Britain? It's just a thought. 03444991000. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Carl in Hampshire. Hello, Carl.
Hello.
Hi. What would you want to talk about Palestine? Yeah.
Oh, where do we start? This
at the beginning, Carl.
Okay. So, did we or did we not, as a country, dehumanize and say that Hamas was a terrorist organization? Did we? Like many countries, it's a prescribed terrorist organization, yes. And then recently, did we not say that a group, you can call them far left or whatever, but we did demonize a group that were glorifying Palestine and Hamas, and recently they were called a terrorist group.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer has just obliterated all of that.
Well, he certainly sided, appears to have sided with Hamas. He has still called for them to release the hostages. There is still that nuance. But mainly his statement is a diatribe against Israel, as if Israel's the villain of the story.
But 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, October the 7th,
well, it's getting on for that. I mean, a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So we were all, everybody was on Israel's side. Oh, that was an atrocity. Of course it was an atrocity. It was an abomination.
Yes, of course.
And nobody should have had to go through that. And so now the government, with no inference from anybody else, when Keir Starmer says the UK, it's not the UK at all. It's 5 or 6 people in his little room that's decided, oh, we're going to do this because it's going to help us in the long run. They are vote hunting.
Well, of course, they need the Muslim vote, and this might have quite a lot to do with Jeremy Corbyn's new party, with Zara Sultana, which will, of course, unless Starmer is careful, siphon off lots of Muslim votes, because they're going to go for the Muslim votes no end. In fact, many people have suggested that...
This is why Starmer lowered the vote, is going to lower the vote age to 16, because there's a lot more people, and
well, that's going to backfire on him, because most 16-year-olds are frighteningly right wing. He thinks they're all revolutionaries. They're not. That won't work. That may backfire on him very badly. But he is trying to manipulate our democracy. You're right.
Yeah, but what I am scared of, Kevin, is in the next couple of months, as we had with Afghanistan, with the leaked names and stuff, and we've got 100,000 people where only 300 people were actually involved in anything at all.
Yeah.
We're going to have another 100,000 people coming from the new Palestine.
Well, it's possible. He already wants to bring 30 kids in or something like that.
Are we going to have Hamas coming in?
Well, probably. You know, we don't tend to check on who comes into the country, but I think that's probably down the line. The point is this recognising Palestine doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't feed a single starving kid. It doesn't do anything about potential ceasefire. It achieves nothing except for appeasing the Muslims back here and getting them to vote for Labour and not Hezbollah or whatever Corbyn's party's called. Listen, Carl, good call. Got to move on, though. Thank you very much. Carl in Hampshire. Let's play one more WhatsApp voice note, then we'll go to break. John on Palestine.
This is regarding Starmer and Palestine. He said he has a mandate to recognise Palestine. He hasn't. He's never mentioned it once before. Secondly, we are currently arming Israel, and rightly so, to defeat Hamas. So what is he thinking? He's thinking one way, he's thinking the other. The only thing that he's doing is trying to appease to a certain demographic who is his voters. What's wrong with this man? Answers on a postcard.
Well, yeah, what's wrong with this man? How long have you got? I mean, technically, we haven't been supplying weapons to Israel for some time now. And in fairness, recognising Palestine was in the Labour electoral manifesto. So not true to say they haven't mentioned this before. However, no need to do it now. No need to do it at all, to be honest with you. What is the point of recognising a pile of rubble? So recognise the state of Israel. Yeah, the state of Israel is the actual phrase required. It's in a complete state. It's not a state. What's the point of recognising it? As I keep saying, you might as well recognise Chingford as a state. Doesn't make it a state, does it? Anyway, let's go to break, and when we come back, oh my God, it's Kevin from Basingstoke time. So stand by for the alternative viewpoint.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
What are you looking for here? An end
a real end. Well, all of a sudden he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. I am very disappointed with President Putin. He'll talk so beautifully and then he'll bomb people at night.
This was obviously someone who needed to be taken off the streets, who needed to be dealt with, who needed to be put in some kind of institution, and yet because he didn't fit into one category or the other, it was a computer says no.
It was totally, yeah.
So, and then it's because of that kind of fundamental failure, because of the fact that this is the sort of thing that people have almost come to expect from a government and a state that seemingly can't keep even its most vulnerable citizens safe. It's precisely that mistrust of the establishment which helps create
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Quick WhatsApp voice note. This is from James on Palestine.
Hi, Kev. I'm absolutely disgusted in this government Palestine thing. What about the Jewish people in this country? How do you think that's making them feel? It's absolutely disgusting. They're determined to destroy this country. One thing after another. It's just non-stop. What are they going to do next? That's what I'm so worried about. Where are they going to take us in these next years?
James, I'm with you. I mean, it's a disgrace what's going on. And yes, what about the Jewish people in this country? They are sensing, and I sympathise with them, they are sensing the old Labour problem, the rise of anti-Semitism, certainly anti-Israel. This cabinet's very anti-Israel, no doubt about that. At what point does being anti-Israel become anti-Semitism? You decide. Interesting text here. Hi Kevin, we have submitted to the voice of terrorism. I don't know how much lower we can fall. It is, in my view, one of the most depressing moments in our nation's history. This is from Kevin Byrne, OBE, the founder of checkertrade.com. So a man of some substance. Thank you, Kevin. I agree. This is a low point. This was sordid local domestic politics dressed up as an emergency, a humanitarian emergency. Who do you think you're kidding, Starmer? We're not stupid, you know. You think we are. I think we're not. It's possible that you are. When I say possible, I think I mean it's definite that you are. Right, time for Kevin from Basingstoke. Hello, Kev. Hello, Kevin. What would you like to say tonight?
Well, you said what has he learned, over the last year. He's probably learned being a Prime Minister is going to be a tougher job than he thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, on that we can agree, yes.
Well, you probably won't agree with the next bit.
I bet you I don't. What is it?
The media are going to absolutely crucify him, even when he hasn't done something wrong, like they did with the expenses, the sunglasses and the suits. Because,
that was wrong, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't wrong, was it? Because
taking free things, free stuff. A multi-millionaire taking £20,000 worth of suits and fashionable sunglasses or spectacles. You didn't think that was wrong? You're taking 5,000 quid's worth of free clothes from his wife, from a tycoon. You didn't think that was wrong?
The 15 years before he came into power, so when the Tories were in power.
Did you think that was wrong or not?
MPs received 10 million.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right, does it?
Well, it does mean it's
no,
right.
I would suggest that MPs shouldn't receive anything.
Well, do you know when he did the 3 months after he won the general election, Nigel Farage received £90,000 worth of free gifts, more than any other MP.
What were the gifts?
What
gifts?
Plane tickets. I mean,
are you sure about that?
I am sure about that.
Are you absolutely? Well, you don't seem very sure. You can't list what they are. You better be careful here, Kevin. You better be careful here, Kevin. This could get libelous. So be careful. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't say it. Okay? Don't start making allegations that you cannot back up, because we'll get into legal trouble. So drop that. What else would you like to say?
Well, okay then. Allegedly. Allegedly, that's what I heard. So I'll just say allegedly.
Well, what you heard was a pile of crap. Next, what else do you want to say?
Well, I mean, he has got a tough job. I mean, you look at the mess the country's in. How much money?
It's his fault, isn't it?
Look how much money the Conservatives borrowed. 1.7 trillion.
Yeah, but the reason the country's in a mess is because of Keir Starmer, isn't it?
No, I mean, he didn't borrow 1.7 trillion.
Yes, but the reason the country's in a mess now is because of him.
Well, no, I mean, if somebody buys
Do you think he's doing a good job? Do you think he's doing a good job? Do you think he's doing a good job? Do you think the Prime Minister is doing a good job?
Under the circumstances.
What circumstances? Honestly, do you have any thought processes? Do you have any do you have any critical faculties at all?
Well, I mean, under the circumstances, we have a first past the post electoral system. You have to vote. You can't vote who you want to win because.
Well, you can. Yeah, you can.
No, you can't. I mean, if I.
Well, yeah, you can. You know, for example, at the last election, if you wanted Labour to win, you voted Labour. If you wanted the Tories to win, you voted Tory. You can vote for who you want to win.
Well, not if you want. If you want, say.
You can vote for who you want to win, though, can't you?
They're not going to win.
Kevin, you can vote for who you want to win under the current system.
Yeah, but you.
Well, yeah. So your point's nonsense, isn't it?
No, you can vote who you want to win, but they won't win if they don't stand a chance.
Well, they won't win if they don't get enough votes.
People do tactical voting.
Well, so what? What point is it you want to make? I don't really get what is it you want to say?
Well,
do you think we should have recognised Palestine?
No, to be honest, that is beyond my pay grade, mate. I really don't.
Bit like Nigel Farage's free gifts, eh? Yeah. Anyway, Kevin, great to commune with you as always. Do keep in touch. I enjoy your calls. There's old Kevin Basingstoke. Good to have a laugh, isn't it? Right, let's listen to another WhatsApp voice note. We've only got 2 to go. This is Tristan on Palestine.
I am pretty disgusted with what our idiotic Prime Minister, in name only, has actually done. And I don't think he realises what could happen. I think there is going to be a spike in anti-Semitism attacks. My mind absolutely boggles. It really, really does. It's like just sweeping democracy under the carpet in the name of absolute sheer party politics, all because he knows he's going to lose the Muslim vote. It's just absolutely disgraceful.
It's really, Tristan, I think you're right. I mean, you've got to take this very seriously. It could have very serious ramifications. We've got enough of a problem with anti-Semitism, prejudice towards our Jewish community already. Never could understand that. The poor Jewish people in Israel get foisted upon them the worst atrocity since the Holocaust. 1,200 of them brutally murdered, raped, tortured, babies put in ovens, and suddenly people start hating the Jews for it. What is that all about? I still don't get it, but very good point, Tristan. Let's go back to the phones and let's talk to Grace in London. Hello, Grace.
Hi. I don't know enough about exactly what's going on in Gaza because of the complications with reporting and Hamas saying different things. It's hard to gauge exactly what's happening on the ground.
It is. You're right about that. Yeah, there's a lot of propaganda around, but I think we can say, life is not good for the Gazans right now.
Yeah, and I am genuinely really desperate for them to be helped, and also ultimately, if possible, to be freed from Hamas. And how that comes about, I do not know. But there are even more people, far more people, who are suffering horrendously in Sudan right now, and I do not understand. I don't understand why Starmer and Corbynites don't care. I don't get it.
Well,
how can Starmer say that he's really upset about how people in Gaza are suffering when he himself has cut overseas aid? I know a lot of people listening to this programme are very keen for overseas aid to be cut, but if Starmer's going to claim that he cares about starving people in Gaza, why doesn't he care about starving people elsewhere?
Well, it's an interesting... The thing is, Grace, Starmer isn't as bad as Corbyn. But the Labour Party traditionally has only ever had one interest in terms of foreign international affairs, and that's Palestine and Israel. Corbyn, he's never mentioned any other foreign country ever apart from Palestine, Gaza and Israel. For him, it's like a 70-year obsession, and it won't go away. But he is symptomatic of many people in the Labour Party. They don't recognise the world, they don't recognise foreign policy apart from when it comes to Palestine, because Palestine gives them an excuse to hate on Israel because, you know, Jez and his mates, arguably, maybe just a tad anti-Semitic.
It could be that. I think
it could be. It is that. It is that.
I guess I find it because anti-Semitism is so irrational. I find it hard to get my head around other people feeling that. But I'm not disputing that it exists. It's just hard for me to make sense of it. But I think, you know, I know a lot of people listening to this programme just want to end overseas aid, but to me it seems really exciting that pound for pound, when aid is spent well, it does make a very, very big difference. And I know some people think it's all wasted, but it isn't. One of the recent things that's been cut because of the aid cuts is research into antibiotics. So some of this money was being spent on...
Well, that's quite useful, but the trouble with Grace, the trouble with foreign aid is mostly it's used as a form of soft diplomacy, which is why we give foreign aid to China, to India, to very powerful economic countries, not because they need the money, but because we need to be friends with them so we can make trade deals. That's the trouble with foreign aid. It isn't often particularly aimed towards helping underprivileged people abroad. It's aimed towards doing trade deals with countries that don't need the money.
Well, so far as I've read, the programmes to China and India had stopped, but it's also the case...
Yeah, but that isn't the point. We still give money to countries that don't need it. Foreign aid, you know, I'm not against it in principle, but it is corrupted, has been for years. Listen, Grace, I've got to move on, but thank you for an excellent call, as always. Always good to talk to you. Grace in London, quick last WhatsApp voice note. We got through them, folks. This is Martin on Palestine.
Kevin, I have held the Starmer government in contempt ever since it came into being. But this Palestine deal means that it is now beneath contempt. How is it we've ended up with a government that is beneath contempt?
I ask myself that every day, Martin, but that is our fate. Let's quickly take a last call. This is Ashley in London. Hello, Ashley.
Evening, Kevin. I'll be quite quick. A couple of small points.
Very quickly, because I've got to move on.
I mean, so Keir Starmer coming out today with this. I mean, there's no basis of what Palestine is, what it will be, what they're recognising. It's all virtue signalling, and truthfully, what it's showing with Starmer is how weak the man is, because he didn't want to do this. I think it was quite clear about that. He
sort of didn't want to do it, but that was just to keep Trump happy. In the end, I think he did want to do it because of the pressure from all of his MPs, but also because he's very worried about Jeremy Corbyn's new party nicking all the Muslim votes. So I think that's what pressurised him into doing it. But Ashley, I've got to move on because the show's nearly over. Give me a call tomorrow, have a proper chat. Ashley in London, and it's Petri Hoskin. She's in the studio. Hello.
Hello. Have you had your haircut?
No.
Oh, he looks very smart today.
Well, as opposed to normal.
Yeah, normally looking by this time. Yeah, you look very smart. Coming up, I'm going to be looking deep dive into this Online Safety Act, just to see if it really is the death of the free internet that people are saying that it will be. Yeah. So talking to somebody who knows a good deal more about this sort of technology stuff than me.